as it was written long ago, the wicked flee when no man pursueth.
Network, Indianapolis Media proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast with your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths comes to die. Stay tuned, be right there.
Right, when you hear that bass, I'm gonna be in your face. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode number 71 of the Lone Gunman Podcast. I have a very special show for you today. I have a great guest on the show. He recently did a podcast with Mark Maron, and it's Barack Obama. And tonight he's gonna be on my show. I'm just messing with you. Will, I love you, buddy. But damn if you don't sound like a young Barack Obama. Man, it's uncanny. And you guys will find out soon enough. But now Will's great. You're going to love this interview. Will did something very special for the JFK research community. And because of his hard work and dedication to the site that he made, I wanted to have him on the show and highlight it for everybody out there to take advantage of, because I think it's that important. He put a lot of hard work into this, and the work's not over. This is a project that can be added to over time and grow exponentially. And the site we're going to be talking about tonight is primarysources.wix.com/home. Okay, everybody. So now, without further ado, I bring to you Will from JFK Primary Sources. Oh yeah, what's up, everybody? This is episode number 71 of the Lone Gunman Podcast with your boy Rob Clark, and I have a very special guest today. I told you last week that he would be on the show, and that we have some very special news for you. So everybody, welcome to the show, Will from @JFK Prime Source on Twitter. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to tell everybody about this site.
No problem at all. I mean, when we first reached out to each other, I thought you were doing something really worthy of being highlighted to the research community, because what you're doing it's going to be a very valuable resource for researchers. I mean, nothing like this has been around before. I mean, it's a hell of an idea, man. So what made you want to make a site like this? Well, let's say are you ready to roll the site out? We can say what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks. I appreciate your praise, for the site. To begin with, and the idea, but the reason I made this is because there really wasn't anything like this in assassination research, and really what JFK Primary Sources is, I like to call it a gateway into assassination research, because what it is a collection of all the links that are relevant that you'll need to all the primary source documents, to all the media archives, to all the blogs, and it's all on one page to make it nice and convenient and easy for everybody. And it really started as a personal project, because I myself was having trouble finding where this material was available. So that's kind of how it started and kind of how it got to where it's at today.
Yeah, I mean, for people new to the case, I mean, it really, really is going to help them out a lot because, I mean, you really do have everything right there, one click away, and it's all segmented into certain sections of what are some of the sections of stuff you got on there?
Oh, of course. Well, when you directly log onto the site, the first thing that you're going to see is going to be the primary sources section. And that is featured documents and archives from the government resources, as well as private collectors, such as Harold Weisberg. His archive is featured there. Of course, the Mary Farrell and JFK Lancer; those are all featured there. And when you click on each link, it's actually going to take you away from the site. So it's going to open a new window. Just so all the users know, you're not going to stay on the site. It's going to open a new window and take you directly to that link. Also featured on the site, just some JFK media, all the media galleries that I could find regarding Kennedy, like the David Von Peen YouTube channel, the Sixth Floor Museum media collection, and actually one of my favorite that nobody really ever goes to is Jacques Lowe Photography, and that was Jackie and JFK's personal photographer during his run for the presidency and while he was president. So there's a lot of really unique and high-quality pictures taken in that gallery.
Oh, yeah. And also, you got Robin Unger's gallery on there?
Oh, yes. And also, for your listeners of the show, I know they all have their own sites that they visit. I would like for them, if they could, to reach out to me and inform me of those, and I will gladly add them to the Primary Sources website.
And they can do that at JFK Prime Source on Twitter, right?
Yes, sir. It's actually, I added an S to the end because, and the reason for that is with the handle Prime Source, it maybe gave the impression that I myself am indicating that I'm a Prime Source.
Gotcha.
That's not at all. So I changed it to Prime Sources. So there's an S on the end. The same thing, JFK Prime Sources.
Awesome.
And I think that's more appropriate for the site and for the idea as well. Because I in no way claim an authority on knowledge. I'm just trying to help share the information that I found with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like information dumps. These are, like archives. These are links to original source documents. These are links to photo galleries. These are links to personal research collections. These are links to audio, like Black Op radio archives and the Lone Gunman,
Yeah, the Lone Gunman is featured on the bottom right, so it will always be there. So it'll be nice and easy to find. I'm always going to leave that. Some of the sites may move around as we add new links or rearrange them, but I'll always leave that one down there so your listeners can find it.
Awesome.
Bottom right, Lone Gunman. I was going to put you in the top right window, but I didn't know how you feel about that.
Hey, as long as I'm on there somewhere, that's all that matters, right?
Well, I think you missed it. There's only 3 floors. I guess if you were on the 6th floor window, the Lone Gunman, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, top right corner. I got you now.
Yeah.
That almost went over my head.
I snuck it in there.
Hey, it's late, man,
Yeah. Yes, it is. And also, some other things that I want to point out. Actually, I really am not concerned with, what people's opinions are. I believe, you can believe what you want. So this is not a site where you're going to find, a dogmatic, approach where you're not going to find somebody telling you a theory. It's just going to be the links. That's all it is. It's going to be a place where you can come and find maybe a new journal you didn't know about or a new website you can link to that you didn't know existed.
Yeah, or a blog, or there's a ton of people out there that do blogs. I mean, that don't really get a lot of shine, but they're really, really good.
Yeah, and that's hopefully some of your listeners will they'll log onto the site and they'll say, hey man, why don't you have this blog? And they'll send me the link so I can throw it on there. Because it's not a be all end all site. I stopped with close to about 250 or 300 links.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot right there. But I know people out there listening to this, like I said, go take a look at the website. Give the website address real quick.
It is primarysources.wix.com /home. primarysources.wix.com/home. And that's going to log you right onto the main page. And it is a Wix site, so the bandwidth is a little slower, but you're still able to get on there. And also kind of the idea that I wanted to show what you could do with free resources. You know, how you could produce something valuable to the community without really just with investing time.
Yeah, and
this entire site is created free. It didn't cost me any money, just a little bit of my time.
Yeah, and it looks good too. I mean, it's really you did a really great job laying it all out, man.
Oh, thank you. I wanted a one-page design so that the user could log on and click the Mary Farrell archive and then go back to the page and check it against the Harold Weisberg archive and go back to the page and check somebody's blog who used the source or something like that. Just to make it, like you said before, kind of like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, because I mean, I know how it is when you're researching online. You know, you're Googling something, you know, and then you know, you're typing that in, and then you get there. But I mean, just going to the site, everything is right there, one click away. I mean, it's laid out really good in sections, you know, to find easily what you're looking for. And I highly recommend it to not only newbies, but also, you know, people that have you know, been looking at the case for a while, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff on there that I've never seen. So, you know, I highly recommend it, you know, for anybody out there interested in the case, most definitely.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And like I said before, if your listeners have any sites that they enjoy or blogs or, you know, no matter what the viewpoint of the blog or the individual, as long as their research is responsible and respectful, I'm glad to host it.
Yeah, and it's not purely a conspiracy thing. It's not purely a lone nut thing. I mean, you've got it all on there. I mean, both sides of it, because as much as you know, the conspiracy people hate McAdams, there's some stuff on his site that you can't find anywhere else, really.
Yeah, and actually, in our discussions, you've kind of linked me to some really nice things that you found on McAdams' site. And like you said, it isn't a one-sided viewpoint. I do host, you know, David Von Peen's galleries, as well as McAdams' sites, Gerald Pauser's blog, Howard Willens. So it is difficult to find websites that defend the Warren Commission, just because the volume is geared towards the other side. There's just so many more of the other version. So if there is people who know the structuralist websites, I would love to host those as well.
Right. And do you have any of Dave Wrightsy's stuff on there? I couldn't remember.
You know what? The name slips my mind, but I would definitely check that out.
Yeah, he's a lone nutter, but he's got some pretty good stuff on his site too. I'll have to direct you to it. I couldn't remember if it was on there or not, but
that'd be perfect, because I do need some more sites that are related to that material.
Oh, yeah.
But I appreciate the work that somebody like David Von Peen has done, just in his massive YouTube collection that he put together. I mean, that's no matter what you believe, I mean, that's a valuable resource for anybody.
It is.
You know, same thing.
Yeah, he's got a lot of videos on there you can't find anywhere else either.
Yeah, and it's organized too. The way that he archived it is really easy to navigate through the videos. So, and he also has the As It Happened series, which is kind of like a real-time videos from all three channels. I think ABC, NBC, and there was one more that's available.
Yeah, and he's got like a blog site for a lot of different videos. I mean, he must have 200 blog sites. It's crazy.
Oh wow!
I don't see how he does it.
I found a few of them, and I posted his main gallery. And if he has a blog, I'll have to add that also. I know he wrote a book, but to be honest, I stay away from the books. Generally, this is where I do my research.
Oh yeah.
Would be the places you find on primary sources.
Yeah, I mean, there is some, you know, freeware out there when you're talking about assassination literature, like Dave Ratcliffe stuff and Ratville. You know, he hosts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he hosts. He hosts some. I think he's got like coup d'etat in America. there's all kinds of stuff out there, like the Torbit document and all this stuff out there. But I'll shoot you some links when this is over. But I always forget, I mean.
I'm sorry, I'll remind you.
Yeah, I mean, we get to talking and I'm like, man, I can't remember what all I was supposed to send him.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's an app that I stumbled upon the other day, and it's called Quip. And I sent it to you, and I don't know if you've used it, but I found it very useful for anybody who's doing research. It's an app called Quip, Quipp, and it allows you to take screenshots, to post links, to do everything right in one app, and you can share your work with others. All you have to do is send them the link, and they can log on, they can edit it, they can look at it. So I think that's an app for anybody who wants to share their work, in a community type environment. It's called Quip.
Yeah,
and
I thought that was
private, so only certain people can view it, or you can make it private to where only certain people can edit it. But and one thing I would recommend for everybody who's doing this, I know that most people probably do, but I would say take notes. That's the one thing I regret not doing when I started, is taking notes. Because you wind up going back over something you already know.
Oh yeah, I'm guilty of that. I mean, I store it all in my head somewhere, and then it's like I can't remember where I read something, but I know I read it somewhere.
Yeah, and that's why I recommend that Quip app for anybody. You can make each document a title, a subject, and every time you come across something that interests you, you can just screenshot it and throw it right in there and share it with the community. Yeah,
man. I mean, I really dig that app because it is a great way to do like collaborative research. If you're working on something with somebody, you're working on an article or something, dude, you can't beat it. I mean, you can collaboratively write an article together, head over to your printer and print it out right like that. Boom.
Well, it also imports it. It exports it from Quip to a Word document.
Yeah.
So you can, because Quip is kind of a generic word processor. It doesn't have a lot of features, but when you send it over to Microsoft Word, you can fancy it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it has a messaging feature where you can talk privately to each other about, your work that you're doing, and it's all right there within a swipe. I mean, you just swipe over and your work's right there, and then you swipe back the other way, and, you can talk to people right there. Share things.
Yeah, I recommend it for anybody who does research or likes to take notes. And the best thing about it, you can have it on your phone, your tablet, and your PC. So no matter where you are, you can just load it up. And it's all, you're working on the same document from your phone, your tablet, or your PC. And I'm not associated with Quip in any way. I must throw that out there. So people don't think that I'm in the background of designing Quip or something.
No, I mean, but you're like me. I mean, if something works good and it's done right, I mean, I'll be a proponent of it any day, Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And there is one thing on here that I find pretty toxic. It would be the forums. There's some good information in there, but generally, if I know most of your users are aware, but most of the new people, I'd stay away from them. You're just going to find venom and disagreement. Generally, that's pretty much where people go to argue about this. So I stay away from them.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I'll lurk and I'll look, but I very rarely ever participate in forums, just because, like you said, I mean, it's full of a-holes, and Facebook's getting that way. I mean, it's a lot of disinformation, at least, being put out on Facebook anyway. And then, because most of the people on Facebook are just casual. They have a casual interest in the assassination. They're not hardcore researchers. So, when they run across somebody, when they first hear about like James Files or something, they go crazy and think they solved the case and start espousing it all over, the internet, and it just gets out of control quickly. And I've noticed, Facebook gets that way very, very quickly in all these different groups, because Facebook, well, there's a reason you got the site. I mean, because, when it all comes back to it, it's all about the primary sources. And I think the site is aptly named because it cuts back through all of the obfuscated research from the past 50 years. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to cut through, stuff that's been twisted over time. And that's part of the thing that I like to do is get back to the primary source documents and really see, who said what, like the first day testimony. You hear about people like Buell Frazier or something and what he's been saying for 50 years. But, you go back to the day of, and his first day affidavit says something totally different. And you're like, okay, how did this get twisted, over the years?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's kind of what motivated me to create this site is, a few years ago, I really got interested, but I started reading books and watching documentaries, and you just realize that they're all using the same information, but everybody's using it in different ways. So I figured the best thing to do was go back and see what the information is they're using. What does it actually say? What does the original document or the primary source say? That's kind of the motivation for this site.
Yeah, I mean,
my motivation for sharing this.
9 times out of 10, it's something totally different. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's for instance, in the last few days, I was reading a lot about the supposed Nixon incident where Lee, I guess, was intent on going and assassinating Nixon when he was in town. And there's quite a lot of primary source documents on that, FBI reports and affidavits and things of that nature, but one thing I always like to do is I like to go to a researcher who's actually used some of the sources, like Vincent Bugliosi. And in his book, I found he's telling the story of Marina and Lee that day and how she holds him in the bathroom, and Lee can't get out. And Bugliosi actually quotes, it's in a footnote of his book where he went to the residence and he checked the door, and the door opens to the outside. So that's how Marina was able to keep him in there, because the door opens to the outside. But if you actually go look at the primary source document in the interview, she indicated that the door opened to the inside. So it's kind of interesting how people will not only leave things out, how they'll just flip the story to fit their motives.
Now, you mean the door would have opened towards her or towards him?
Well, that's what a point of controversy was about, was which way did the door open? Because if the door opened towards him, how could she hold the door closed? And Bugliosi and pretty much any structuralist researcher states that the door opened to the outside, or they'll say that, or there is no proof of which way the door opened. But in the original report, it clearly states that the door opens to the inside.
It opens to the inside.
To the inside. Clearly states that. It's in a paragraph. I forget the document. I'll have to pull it up. We can link it later. But it's in a paragraph right there. It's the same document they used to tell the story of how Lee kept her, or how Lee was kept in the bathroom. But they just leave that paragraph out where the door opens to the outside.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important detail.
In a footnote, he'll tell you. Yeah, absolutely. That's those are the kind of things that I look at. Not so much this massive case, but the little tiny lies. Which way the door opens, because that's important.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that.
Because people always say,
that's kind of what
there's no way that could have happened, because, Lee would have overpowered her and been able to get out of that bathroom, one way or the other.
Well, there is also one more interesting, I did find a document, after Marina had testified to the Warren Commission, the FBI set up surveillance of her new house. And it was super secret surveillance. It was so secret they didn't even provide the information to the Warren Commission. Now, that could be for a couple of reasons. Probably most likely because it was illegal. But also during that surveillance, in that file, there's an FBI report stating that they believe that whole Nixon story was bogus and it was created by her business manager, James Martin. And that's right there in the document. Nobody really discusses that. That's kind of one of the things that people say, well, excuse me, well, if he was going to kill Nixon, and if he was going to kill Walker, well, why wouldn't he kill Kennedy?
Right.
That's kind of some of the logic people use to base it on. But if you go to the primary source, he was most likely never going to kill Nixon. And actually, the funniest thing about Bugliosi, I do enjoy his book. It makes me laugh quite a bit. But the funniest thing about Bugliosi's retelling of that story is that he actually attributes a date. He knows the date. He's the only one who knows the date this supposedly happened, because Marina could never give a date. So he attributes the date, I think, to the April 23rd or April 24th. But the only problem is Nixon wasn't in town that day. It was actually Lyndon Johnson, and Bugliosi attributes this to Oswald's dyslexia. Not only does he confuse letters, he confuses people. So he was actually on his way to assassinate President Johnson. Vice President Johnson. But he said Nixon because he's dyslexic.
Nice.
So it's just interesting the way that people rationalize these events in their mind.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, that wouldn't be the first time I'd heard that, that Johnson was the supposed target, even on the 22nd,
Well, the one thing I've always wondered if James Martin or whoever told Marina to fabricate this story, if they said something along the lines of VP, the vice president, and she was dyslexic and accidentally chose Nixon instead of Johnson in her recounting of the story. That's theory. There's no proof of that, but that's another scenario that could have happened when she was told about the story. She was confused herself as to who the VP was. She thought Nixon because at this time Johnson was president. So maybe she made some mistake like that, or maybe something else happened.
And here I am getting them confused. I was thinking of Connolly, Governor Connolly, and instead of Johnson.
No, it was Johnson. The researchers have gone back and looked, and Nixon was not in Dallas at any time in April. Johnson was, and it was that 23rd or the 24th.
Right.
And but see that the fascinating thing is how if you look at the documents, there's no known date, but researchers like Bugliosi have attributed a date to it, and they just created their own story. They fabricate these things. They don't know for sure, and he wrote it in this massive book like it's a factual event.
Yeah, and another thing that's always fascinated me, of course, I mean, I got a couple aspects of the case that really, really interest me, and one of them is after the assassination, the events, in the Texas School Book Depository, like the doorway incident, or running into Pierce Allman or McNeil, some stuff like that.
Yeah, that's another amazing thing that I'm glad you brought that up because your listeners are probably knowledgeable about the incident. Oswald reported to Inspector Kelly while he was being interrogated that he had ran into two Secret Service men on the way in. And the Warren Commission and, in turn, researchers have attributed this to either Pierce Allman, or, McNeil. I forget the gentleman's first name right now. But the reason they do that is because both of these, McNeil and Allman, both claim to have ran into the building, met a gentleman who pointed them to the phone. And that's the same story that Oswald told. He ran into the building, met a gentleman that pointed him to the phone. But the gentlemen, McNeil and Allman, both refused to identify Oswald as the guy that they ran into. Now, they might have been excited, but the fact is they never identified the men. And, throughout history, now, if you look online, both of them basically claim to be that guy.
Yeah.
McNeil will do his little tour where he claims to be the guy who ran into Oswald, and so does Allman. He's actually the voice of the Sixth Floor Museum. He does the guided tour.
Oh, really?
His voice is the when you put the Orwellian headphones on and they walk you around. His voice is the one that's in the tour. And
of course, McNeil went on to be on the McNeil Lehrer Hour.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he had a pretty prestigious career. And Allman actually got away from journalism, if I recall, after that. Actually, one of his interesting quotes is he said that he wanted to report the news and not make the news. And he felt that's what some of the reporters in the area were doing. They were trying to make the news instead of actually reporting the factual news.
Yeah, I can think of a few.
Yeah, I don't know who he's referencing in particular, but I just heard him say that one time. But the more interesting thing, I'm going to go back to Bugliosi because he tells the story of how Oswald went on to tell Inspector Kelly of his encounter with the guys in the doorway. And in Bugliosi's book, he says it was about an hour before he got moved that on Sunday that he began to tell the story to Inspector Kelly. But actually, if you look at the primary source documents, it said that he told Fritz on Friday in the very first interview about the Secret Service man.
Huh.
So it's interesting. It's just one paragraph, and it's in the same document that everybody references. It's just one paragraph in there, and it says, on Friday the 22nd, after the first subsequent interview, he informed Fritz about the Secret Service men. And Fritz then went and told Sorrells. And that was on Friday. And if you read Bugliosi's book, he created a transcript for this event, which is amazing to me because there is no transcript.
Yeah.
But he created a transcript for it, and he actually attributes it on Sunday. And he says that Oswald was lying. The only reason he said that there were Secret Service men was so he could garner some kind of favor from the Secret Service men that he was encountering in the interview.
Nice.
Well, but the thing is, if you look at the document, it says it happened on Friday. So, was he lying on Friday when he just told Fritz that too? So I think he did encounter some people in the doorway and did point him to the phone. There is some thought that it's a gentleman by the name of Powell, who is a military intelligence officer.
Yep.
There's some school of thought. I actually think Gary Mack is. Don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure, but I think Gary Mack believes it's Powell as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I was just reading something about this earlier today, and it talks about McNeil going. He places the time he went into the building at about 12:36. And he says he went into the first floor. He said there was nobody else around. He said there was 3 guys on the first floor, 2 back towards the back, and 1 on a phone. There was a phone right on the first floor attached to a post, like a support pole or whatever. And the guy on the phone is who McNeil asked where he could find a phone, and the guy pointed him to the offices on the first floor.
I think actually McNeil's first story was the gentleman pointed him to the other guy. The first guy he encountered turned to the other guy and asked basically for confirmation, can this guy use the phone? It doesn't say that, but that's what it appears. He looked at the first guy. The first guy looked at the other guy hey, can he use the phone? And then the other guy actually pointed him to the phone. I could be mistaken on that, but I thought that's how McNeil's story went. Is he ran into 3 people, and 2 of them took part in guiding him to the phone. 1 pointed to the other, and then he pointed to the phone.
Yeah, because there was
But either way, it's not one guy by himself.
No.
In the doorway, which is amazing. How people would just actually it was, to my knowledge, it was Special Agent Sorrells who attributed this story to Allman. He basically went back and kind of forced him into believing that he's the guy that encountered Oswald. And to the best of my knowledge, they didn't bring him before the Warren Commission. I really don't remember seeing his, because I know I looked for it, and I don't remember seeing his testimony.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean,
and, he doesn't. When you look at him in his interviews, he doesn't believe he's the guy. He'll let people say that, but you could see it deep down. He knows he wasn't the guy. Same thing with McNeil. They'll just let people believe that. I mean, why not? It's a good story,
Oh yeah, you touch history.
That ran into Oswald.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? But the bottom line is it's not factual. It doesn't help us figure out what really happened, who that guy was. And the guy who and maybe Powell is a very interesting guy in himself.
Yep, military intelligence.
Yeah. There's some interesting things. He actually gave testimony, and I think it was to the HSCA.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
No, you're right.
But okay, and he details that the military intelligence units were kind of working with the Secret Service when the president or somebody would come to town, and they would actually represent themselves as Secret Service agents. When they would flash credentials, they wouldn't say, I'm with the military intelligence. They would say, I'm Secret Service. And that's what Oswald claims that he ran into, was a guy who flashed him a badge. I've never seen a picture of Powell. I don't know do you know if one exists?
I haven't seen one either.
And I've looked, and no one, to my knowledge, Powell was interviewed about 4 times. He was interviewed by Secret Service, by Dallas Police, FBI, maybe a couple times by each one. But no, it doesn't say whether they showed him the photo or not of the Powell guy. It doesn't say whether or not they showed him photos of anyone else. So could it be this guy?
Yeah, because I mean, there's a problem with McNeil's timeline. Because if by 12:36, if he's going into the building, I mean, that place would have been a madhouse in there. You know,
His story's rubbish. It would be more likely Allman, because Allman at least ran in the building with someone. Because Oswald claims it was two people. Allman ran in the building with the guy he worked with. And also the guy he worked with refused to identify Oswald. They didn't say that. They just said it's not him. You know, well, not that it's not him, but they wouldn't identify him. And the only thing they could say that he was white and he had dark hair. Which to me seems kind of strange. Seems like maybe they saw the guy and he wasn't Oswald, you know? And they're just giving a description so they don't get caught up in this mess.
Yeah, because
they're not saying, no, it wasn't him.
What I was reading earlier, I mean, it kind of made it out to seem like that possibly, if Oswald was supposed to be in the building, you know, to get a call or something like that, stay by the phone, that would keep him, you know, out of sight, you know, so he couldn't have an alibi for not being on the 6th floor.
Yeah.
That actually it was, Who are we talking about? Military intelligence? What was his name? Powell.
I think James Powell. James might not be his first name. I think it's.
Yeah, Powell. That he was actually on the phone on the 1st floor, calling the 2nd floor, talking to Lee, you know, or something of that nature. Because when McNeil said he went into the office to actually make the call, it was like they had a phone, a push button phone with several lines on it, and that 2 were lit up and one was free. But there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people running back in the building. You know, Bill Shelley, that other guy I talked about. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I don't know what Powell looks like, so I don't know how, you know, and I don't know anybody else identify him in the building. But if he's the man that they encountered, Allman and McNeil, he would have had ran in the building really quickly. It was like almost within a minute or so after it happened. He would have had to have been one of the first people in the building to already have gotten the phone, used the phone, got off the phone, turned around, and started walking back out.
Yeah, well,
his story is really sketchy. You know, you just read through, and granted, he's telling it, you know, 11, 12 years after it happened, but his story is still really sketchy.
Yeah, especially if he got caught inside the building. You know.
Oh yeah, that's another good point. I forgot to mention that he did get trapped inside the building. Yeah, when they quarantined it off, he was stuck in there. You know, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Oswald made it out, but he got stuck. So.
Yeah. Well, and his job was to basically, what I surmise, he kind of did background checks on people that were going to be doing, you know, top secret jobs. So, you know, maybe he was there on he claims to have been off work. He could have been doing something independent of the events that happened, but, you know, it seems, he took a hell of a picture, man. He was right place, right time, you know, for just some guy on his day off. And he was also out at, left field before.
Yeah.
And the only picture I know of is the one where they show the 6th floor. I mean, I haven't seen, his career work. It seems like this guy told the story like he was an avid photographer.
Yeah, I haven't seen any other pictures either.
It seems like, he was there taking pictures, not accidentally. You know, he wasn't just there for any reason. I'm not going to speculate. I really don't know why he was there. He could have been there. Maybe he could have been there trying to prevent a plot. You know, people.
What's interesting to me is if I think it's in the Dallas, the city of Dallas archives, which I'm sure the link for can be found on primary sources.
And actually, there's 2 of them there. There's the original one that they have, where it's just like a data dump where you click on the box and you go to it.
Yeah.
And there's the more updated version. So they're both there.
Cool. But I remember there was a document, and they had listed several workers of the Texas School Book Depository. And the address, actually, they had for Lee Oswald was 602 Elsbeth Street. Now, the problem with that is he wasn't living at Elsbeth Street at the time. And the actual real address when he was living there was 605 Elsbeth. And that address was not anywhere in the school book depository files. The only thing they had on file was from his application, and he actually put Ruth Payne's address on that, you know, in Irving. And when the military intelligence had their Oswald file, that was the last address they had for him was Elsbeth 602. It matched. So
Yeah, that's quite ironic.
yeah, so apparently they got some information from military intelligence. Now, whether it came over to the police department and it somehow made it on this list of employees, I don't know, but it just...
Well, or the other thing is the person who gave them the information got it. It doesn't necessarily mean it came from there. The person who gave it to them might have took it from there. It doesn't mean that the intelligence volunteered it always. There could, in a situation like this, there could be moles and people working against everybody. And, so to say that just because it came from there doesn't necessarily mean it was them. Somebody could have grabbed it out of there.
Well, that's
Whoever
true,
was
too.
setting up Oswald obviously had the capability to do a lot of things. Grabbing an address out of there wouldn't be that difficult. And plus, it kind of throws you off because now you're like, well, how the hell did they get this address? And then you're looking over here.
Yeah.
Because that is a red red flag. How do you have that address?
Yeah.
And then you read how they would conduct their mole hunts and how they would create false information and things of that nature. So that could have, they might have found out on November 22nd who that mole was.
Yeah,
They might
that's
have found
true.
out who that mole hunt was because when that 602 starts popping up and things of that nature, that could be another reason why the Warren Commission is always gets this like nefarious outlook on it. But I think they did a disservice by suppressing the truth, but they prevented a nuclear world war, which was obvious intentions. That was whoever tried to do this. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to create some kind of global conflict.
Yeah.
So for as terrible as the Warren Commission did, at least it didn't allow that to happen. And it's not that's one thing people got to realize. It's not a court of law. This commission is almost something that would be done in a communist or a dictatorship, under a dictatorship. This commission. This was not a court of law. Nobody was cross-examined. It wasn't, the witnesses were chosen, picked and called. This wasn't a real trial. This was a commission that created a report. It was not a man who was brought before a jury and tried and then convicted. I think that's one thing that people got to realize.
Yeah.
He was never convicted of anything.
And
except what his little charge he had down in New Orleans.
Yeah, and based on, they had to rely on the FBI for their investigative arm. And, if the FBI is compromised, then it's not going to be a legitimate investigation either. They only passed up certain bits of information to the commission to actually question certain people on, and the rest of it was overlooked.
And like that document I discussed earlier, where the FBI had wiretapped Marina's house. That was also approved by Robert Kennedy as well, which is interesting. I'm sure that he wanted to know what happened too. But anyways, I'm not a legal expert, but to the best of my knowledge, this was completely illegal surveillance, and they didn't use any of the information, from this surveillance, on the commission, which seems like it would be some very key information when she's at her home by herself and she thinks she's, in private. And one of the things that she does state from there, this is in regards to Thursday night, before the 22nd, is she does not remember Lee ever going out of her sight and how he could have went in the garage, and made the little package that he supposedly made. Now, it's not to say that, after she went to sleep or he could have got up earlier, but, when she's in her home in her own private moment, she couldn't figure out when Lee went to the garage and made it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of interesting. It doesn't prove anything.
No,
but it's just, it's interesting to know.
And I was reading today too, man, because Oswald was arrested with $13 in his pocket, right? He left Marina $170, okay? And I was reading it was a theory that Oswald could have brought his rifle to work to sell it to somebody because of the interest generated from Roy Truly's buddy. I think his name was Warren Castor. He actually brought 2 rifles into the school book depository the day before the assassination, and everybody was looking at him. And, he probably would have said, yeah, I got an old Italian carbine, and
you think he's that? I mean, I don't think he's that dumb though. I don't think you can get him. You can trick him that easily.
No, and I don't think he brought that rifle. I mean, with all the things with
well, there's another thing. It comes from Gary Patrick Hemming, and he tells a lot of tales. But he said when he was in Miami, they wanted him and some of his men to bring weapons and act as protection when the president was there. And he said, "Hell no."
Yeah,
I'm not doing that. He knew he's it could be a tale, or maybe he heard it through hearsay. But that's just another interesting idea. All they would have to do is say, "Hey, we need you over here with your gun." And if you're dumb enough to bring your gun, you're the guy.
Well,
it goes down.
Yeah, Hemming even told a story that he actually was the one who talked Oswald into bringing his rifle to work because he was going to buy it that day.
Oh, that was Hemming's story?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I know he also tells a story that he's the guy who met Oswald out in Los Angeles, or San Diego, I think, when Oswald was still in the Marines.
Yeah.
I don't know what really to make of him. I just,
grain of
some
salt.
Of the stuff he tells is factual, but most of it's probably bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, because he'll tell you one story one time, and I was talking to Doug about this too one time. I said, I think he liked to fuck with people, basically. If he didn't respect you as a researcher, like, he would just mess with you, and
I think he would too.
And, with certain guys that he felt were legit, like Greg Burnham, like, who's the guy that wrote Bloody Treason? Noel Twyman, I think he pretty much, was legit with, just a handful of people though that, if he thought they were good researchers and they came up with some good ideas, he might give them a bone or two, but, if they were way off base, like Weberman or, just some of these other guys, he just liked to mess with people, I think.
Well, he seems like the kind of guy that would do that. You hear his conversations, and he seems like he's got a pretty wild sense of humor.
Yeah.
And he was, win, lose, or draw, he was involved with a lot of these people during this time frame. So he does have some information that would be valuable.
Yeah, did you know he...
picking and choosing, trying to figure out what it is. And the only way you can really do that is checking his story against, the actual events that happened and against other stories. And that's why, I threw up this primary sources.
Yeah, did you know he was the, Greg Burnham had him be the best man at his wedding?
I didn't know that. I knew that Burnham had a lot of interviews with him. I didn't know he was the best man.
Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, my knowledge of all the events is very, I would say, limited. I in no way think I'm an expert or think I have anything figured out. It's just, for me, it's just like a critical thought exercise. Trying to decipher, what information's good and what's not and what it means. And there's so much out there that I just wanted to pull it all into one place and make it easier for other people like me or like you who are interested to find whatever it is they're looking for.
Well, I definitely commend you for doing this because it's something that's been sorely needed for a long time. And, some people have attempted it before, but... Yeah,
I ran across a lot of them. I searched. It took me longer than I wanted because as I added a link, I would, go through that site, check out the information they had there. I tried to make sure it was decent stuff. It wasn't. There's no like a disrespectful stuff. You'll find that in the forums. You'll find that clicking on links, but on primary sources, it's always going to be what it is right now, how you see it. It's always going to be a 1- and 2-page site that's not gonna force an opinion on you. And I need more of some more links. So any of your listeners who have a favorite site, I'd love to add it.
Well, for the people who aren't on Twitter, do you have an email address maybe they could get at you too?
Yeah, definitely. It's primarysources.main@gmail. And you can get at me on Twitter, or if you want to get a hold of me, Rob knows how. Point me to a good site, and I'll throw it on there, and we can feature it and start doing a little. Excuse me. Start doing a little more with the site.
Yeah, most definitely.
Right now, it's just in the introductory phase. Kind of let people know it's there, and gather some more resources before I try to do the next thing with it, which would be to maybe try and get people to provide content on a blog or on a separate place. Not on the primary sources site itself, but it would be short stuff based off of documents, very focused on one specific point, like did the door open to the inside or the outside? Here's all the documents you need to make that decision, and here's the conclusions that that these people are drawing from this. And do it one tiny item at a time. I know it's already been done, but not in a group in a setting like this where it can be done in one place. You got to go to so many different places just to find the right information.
Yeah, another reason, people, to get Quip. I mean, you can find me on there. You can find Will on there, and you work up a little article or something using primary sources, and get it to one of us, and we can make sure that it makes its way onto the blog, and just to provide some original content too. So it's just not always linking off somewhere else, but there'll be actually new stuff to find on there too.
Yeah, and there's so much good research out there, and the problem that I find with a lot of it is it's just so lengthy that the average person's not going to go into it. It's so detailed, and you almost have to know, you have to have a certain background to even start reading, articles that are on Sitka or these journals or these the probe archives, and they're great resources, but they're not for beginners.
No.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to show people, why I got interested, the things that bothered me about the case, like, does the door open to the inside or to the outside? That seems like a pretty substantial thing to know. If this small woman's claiming to hold him in the bathroom all day when he's going to assassinate somebody, And the funny thing, that story still gets repeated. I mean, Priscilla McMillan Johnson, we all know that she's not really objective, but, she repeats that story. And if you watch her little interviews and the way she tells it, it's just so amazing that she could be that deceptive, and people just buy it.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. There's a lot of it out there that people just buy without looking any further. And this site you got here, man, it's a great tool to do actually, your own research instead of relying on other people. I mean, what other people have done and books that are out there are fine and dandy, but nothing feels better than finding what you're looking for on your own and finding it on a primary document, and being able to do your own research. And the tools that Will has provided here allow you to do that. I mean, you get to go find it yourself, and we're just pointing it in the right direction, You got to do the hard work, you got to do the legwork, you got to take the notes, you got to do the digging, but at least Will's providing a jumping off point here for everybody. And man, I can't tell you, I seriously saw the site, I got a little sneak peek of it a couple days ago, and it's just amazing to me, everything that's out there. And it's like you said, it's not complete yet. We want people to still add stuff to it. Check it out. If you don't see a link on there you think should be on there, send it to either me or Will, and we'll make sure it gets on there.
Yeah, and thanks again for giving me the chance to talk about this site. And, this is really inspired by people like you and JFK Lancer and Mary Farrell and all these other great resources that are out there, that other people have taken the time to put together. And I just kind of picked it all up and put it in one place to make it easy to get to. And it's going to be a project that I can work on continually. So if a new site comes out or an old site goes extinct, it's going to be updated.
Well, yeah. And, seeing all that, man, it inspired me, to want to reach out to you and partner up with you and work with you. And I think what you're doing is awesome. It's going to be a big benefit to the research community out there. There's no other way around it. When you want to go find something, you don't have to sit there and read 20,000 books. You don't have to listen or read another article somebody else wrote on it, because believe me, sometimes things get twisted over time authors can be biased when it comes to their own information. So it's always important to go back when you can to the primary source documents and find it for yourself. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well as anybody else, hearing something and repeating it. And, I had a good example of that, with the whole Gaten Fonzie thing and Larry Crayford. When you actually go back and see where he got it and you realize it was written by a, satiric comedian, and then it somehow makes its way onto the education site. You're like, okay, something's wrong here. But I'm glad I found it and clarified it.
You sent me that link, and I said, where'd this come from? That was the first thing we started talking about. Where'd this claim come from? Because it was a pretty radical claim. And then he said that he was, I forget, he said he was Army when he was really a Marine, and it just didn't even make sense just reading the quote. It's like, how is it on, what was that, on Spartacus?
Yeah.
I think, I was like, how'd that make it there? And it just makes you realize you check everything, because people are going to take one sentence out of context to make it fit no matter what their viewpoint is, whether they believe it was Lee or whether they believe it was 100 gunmen, they're going to take whatever they can and use it out of context.
Yeah.
And I think that,
and you notice
once you start digging, you realize, that you find things and you're like, what is this? And then you share it. That's kind of what me and you have done. I found some stuff and, what is this? And then you always send me back, well, check this out. And it's never, bold claims. It's always primary source documents or primary source interviews or things of that nature.
Yeah, because I've come to find out that the further you get away, from the event, the less reliable information becomes. And, like I said before, I was telling you about, Joachim Joosten. This guy's crazy. He's writing a book 5 months after the assassination, before the Warren reports come out. He's got all this information in there of what people were talking about back then, what people's suspicions were back then, before they got perverted by the Warren Commission. And, just looking at stuff that nobody else looked at before. And it gets forgotten in time because these are, little known little books that probably didn't get published on a big scale. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of this JFK stuff, is that it was never actually published on a big scale. So, if you're going to look for like, Penn Jones, a continuing inquiry, and you don't know anybody that lived 40 years ago and has a copy, you're shit out of luck unless you can find it online somewhere. And, that kind of stuff like that, man, I like going back, way back, instead of relying on stuff that I read. Because a lot of these JFK books that are coming out now are either total nonsense or it's stuff we've already heard 1,000 times,
Yeah. It's all based off, they're sourcing each other's books. And that's why, I'm not a historian, but when you start sourcing each other's books, you're not talking about the events, you're talking about each other's books now. You're writing the story off of each other's books. So.
Yeah, and that's a big problem right now with all these LBJ did books. It all stems back to the same stories and the same sources.
Yeah, they're entertaining, and people do make some money off of this, but it's not really that profitable. I don't think that somebody like John Armstrong or who spent so much time, effort, and energy, I don't think he's made a lot of money doing this. It's probably cost them money, and I would say that about most serious researchers. It probably costs them money. There's not very many who make money in this. So to hear people claim that it's about the money, it's interesting to see that, that really the only success in this field would have been the movie JFK. That movie was extremely successful.
Yeah.
It made a lot of money. And then it was re-released and made a lot of money, and, everybody who was involved with that got paid. But that's really one of the only mainstream conspiratorial things that I could think of that made a tremendous amount of money.
Well, I can say, some of them that are put out now, certain ones by certain publishers do okay, but just because they're pimped to death. But books like, good books like JFK and the Unspeakable, I'm sure
that was a great book.
I'm sure did okay. Cause it was in mainstream bookstores. But a lot of these self-published books you find on Amazon and stuff, they never see the light of day in a bookstore. And like Greg Parker's book, it's a great book. Lee Harvey Oswald's Cold War. It's only on Kindle, So a lot of this stuff you're not going to find in a bookstore, and that's fine, But it's important to know where to get these things, so you can have access to them.
Yeah, well, I guess another thing I wanted to point out for people who like to read books is before you get into the book, I would turn to the back, see what their sources are, what documents are they talking about, what documents are they using, log on to the site, and read them for yourself before you get into the book. So then this way you could see the material they're basing their work off of. So you could see if it varies or what they pull out of context or, those kind of things. It helped me, when I'm reading essays and things like that, I'll stop as soon as I get to a document that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to go to the site and I'm going to read the document and see what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
You come back to the essay and it's like, wow, you used that way out of context. Or, you used that perfectly.
Or you use Wikipedia, then we can just throw this book in the trash pile.
I'm sorry for you will not find a link to Wikipedia on primary sources. There will not be one.
Well, there shouldn't be, so that's a good thing.
But, for your listeners, again, I ask anybody who has a site, has a gallery, has a forum, has a blog, has something that can be shared. I'll host it, and it's this is not a business. It's not a for-profit venture. It's just it's an idea. So I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for some links. Point me in the right direction. Show me what you got, and I'll put it on there.
Yep.
This is something that we can kind of grow. The people who are interested, who are really interested can contact me, and we can start talking about phase 2, producing original content, and not a tremendous amount, just 500 word essays somewhere in that time frame, and but mostly with links to documents so people can find for themselves.
Awesome.
And again, thank you. I appreciate having me on your show. For your listeners, this is my first time really speaking in any kind of public way about this, so hopefully I didn't diminish the quality of the Lone Gunman podcast.
Not at all. If anything, you've made it better. Believe me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Hey, no, man, thank you for coming on the show, and give everybody the website one more time.
Oh, definitely. It's primarysources.wix.com/home. And eventually it's going to be ported, to its own URL. But I'm trying to figure out the best move to make on that. There's a few different options, and I'm still gathering resources, and then once it's completely done, I'm going to move it over. But for now, it's primarysources.wix.com/home. And I'm on Twitter at JFK Prime Sources.
Gotcha. And like I said, if you can't remember all that, just shoot it to me, and I'll make sure that Will gets it.
Your listeners do your thing. They normally do when they log onto your site and go through your show, listen to it there, and then you can just post the link there, and they can find it there.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thanks, Will, for coming on, man, and doing this site for everybody out there in the community. It's not a personal thing. It is, but it isn't. It's out there for everybody to take advantage of, and I commend you for doing so.
No, thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show and giving me a nice platform, and also just our conversation we've shared about our ideas.
Hey, no problem, man. I thoroughly enjoy all of them. All right, people, that's it for this week. This is your boy Rob Clark on the Lone Gunman Podcast, thanking Will for coming on and thanking him for getting this great site. This sumbitch is in the can, beaming up the satellite down directly to your ears, people. This is your boy Rob Clark. Peace.